Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Hi, Karen. It is a lovely, lovely day in Paris today. So nice out. We're happy that it's a beautiful day for Kate to walk around. So there's no rain or cold. And I'm glad you guys could join early. Oh, hey, Robert and Angela. I see a few people across my little screen at the top. But look at that. Look at that sunshine, blue sky and sunshine. We're only a few weeks away from spring and the time change, which I know people, isn't this the one where you lose sleep? And people hate that, but you know what? I'm not complaining about some extra sunshine, that's for sure. So we'll give everybody here a second to get in and make sure, as most of you know, to lock Kate's image on the screen, and then iPhone or iPad, just double click on the image. And if you're on a computer or something else, in the right hand corner, hit the little blue dealy bob and just say pin to screen. And we'll have I'm glad you guys could join a little earlier today. Wonderful Patreon members, I appreciate you so much. So we'll go ahead and get started. We are right here. This is in the second, and this is the Bonne Nouvelle area. A lot of people call it Santerre, but that is actually just a little tiny ways away from here. But this is the Bonne Nouvelle area, and we're in the second. And so we're going to head down to Rue Montorgueil, but I wanted to start up here because this little, it's not even a square. It doesn't even have a name. It's just this street, the Rue d'Abouquer. Basically turns into a pedestrian street right in front of where Kate is. And up above on the wall, I have this, I could not find when this was created, but it's been here for quite a long time. This mural by Combo CK, it is of Tintin, which is the very popular French cartoon, or Belgium. It started in Belgium, but it's very, very popular European cartoon. And it is Tintin kissing Captain Haddock. And so, of course, this artist just loves to kind of shock people. But he also just loves to just get a message across that, this is acceptable and all kinds of fantastic, wonderful love. And if there's anything we need right now, that is it. So I will actually stop my video real quick. So when you join, if you get my blabbering voice, and you see the black screen, you'll know to find Kate. But some of you guys are veterans, you know what to do. So this is great. I just love this little area. And I was like, I've only been in this area probably 4 or 5 times, but I need to come back here because I just love this little area. And there's a reason why I've been here 4 or 5 times, and we'll head down that street. But here on the right-hand side is this fantastic wall. This is one of the first ones actually installed in Paris, and there's been other cities that have added it, but of course it happened here first. And this was this fantastic wall, the Oasis of Abouquer. It was installed in 2013 by Patrick Blanc. And it is 250 square meters of all of that vegetation, which is fantastic. There's windows there. I just know that at this time of the year, when it starts to get a little warmer out, and we just had this like brief cold spell, for some, I don't know how they do it, but these little teeny tiny ants somehow make their way through the 3 layers of windows to come into my office, to come crawling around, and I freak out. I don't know about living in a place that you open your window and there was a giant bush outside of it, and what kind of things would come crawling into your window, especially since they don't like screens there. But it's beautiful. It's still pretty fantastic looking. Oh, Janet, this is your neighborhood. Oh, good. Well, you already know everything around there. It's good to see you too. So we are going to just head down here, down this street, and this little, right where we are, right where Kate's going to stand in the middle of the street. It was just outside of the Charles V wall. And we're going to go left, Kate. to your left. That wall, that street right there, basically where these buildings are on this side, this was the moat of the wall. So we're just outside of that wall. And there is a popular place over here that many people know to go get some delicious donuts right there. And these are actually, this is Bone Shaker Donuts. And this is actually, these three buildings right here are the oldest buildings on the street. They go back to 1640. But this street, Abukar, and a lot of the streets around here, surprisingly so, this is very organized because they're all named after things associated with Egypt. There's the battles that Napoleon had in Egypt, plus we'll get to come up to, there is a street named after Cairo. There's a street of the Nile, which is the great street coming up here in a little bit. But this, more people in here. Oh, what? Janet, that's one of my favorite names of a street, Tiquiton. I love that name of that street. It's just so much fun to say. But this whole little area, so we're right basically on the outside of what was the edge of Paris. So last week we were over there, kind of where Paris was founded, and now we are at one of the other walls, the second wall after Philippe Auguste. And right where Kate is right now, this area, the Rue de d'Amitié, there's a historic plaque right there because this was at one point known as the Courtyard of the Miracles. And yes, that might sound like, oh, that's fancy. And there's just a random chair. That might sound fancy, but what it was at the time was, and this place was here for over 200 years. And they were set up all over the city, but this was the biggest one. But it was basically a bunch of beggars and thieves and prostitutes, and they would come over here and they set up like this camp, and they had a whole court system. There was a king, there was all members of the court. And so they would come into this place and they would, kind of trick people because they would say like, oh, come in limping or ailments, or I'm blind, or I have all these other problems. And then they would all of a sudden act like, oh, they'd wake up the next morning in this place and be like, oh, all of a sudden I'm cured. So it was the court of miracles, and it lasted, it was, like I said, over 2 centuries that it was here. It was finally closed down in 1784. So it began in the 15th century. And so it lasted until 1784 was finally completely demolished. And because they would bring, entice these people to come in, and then they would, basically steal from them or rob from them. But you always, anytime you see those plaques, always stop, especially, well, they're all in French, but they're fantastic. They're really the only way to get like the accurate information on a plaque. Some of the other plaques that they put up in the city, anybody could put up a plaque. And so as we know from ones we have seen, they're not always correct. So thank you everybody for joining, those just jumping in, and make sure you find Kate's image and then you pin her onto your screen. So this little street right here, is that Boulangerie open, Kate? No. I was hoping that Kate could just get a giant whiff of this Boulangerie. And you could kind of hold it right here because I have a bit to say about this wonderful little street. So this little street is the Rue de Nil, which is named after the Nile. So the longest street, or the longest river in Africa. And this is one of the smallest streets, but it's filled with everything you would ever need. And if you can't find it on this street, then you just don't need it. But this street is basically, the mayor of this street is Gregory Marchand. And Gregory Marchand is an amazing, amazing French chef. And he, at one point, he was traveling around. He went to London and worked for a while. He was in New York, worked for a while. But in London, he worked at Jamie Oliver, the Naked Chef's restaurant, 15. And while he was there, Jamie nicknamed him Frenchie. So he came in 2009 back to Paris. He's French, came back to Paris and opened this little restaurant right there. Oh, there's Kate in the mirror, or in the window. Hi, Kate. He opened this restaurant. It's 26 seats. And it is absolutely fantastic. It's open Monday through Friday. It used to be very difficult to get a reservation. Right now it's getting busier because tourism's coming back, which I'll talk about later, but it is amazing. They're open lunch and dinner and Monday through Friday. And then this right up there, Kate, is the Frenchy Bar à Vin. And he opened that. Oh, there's a hello, Frenchy worker. He opened this in 2011. And so it is a wine bar. It is open every day from 6:30 to 11. They don't take reservations at the Bar à Vin, and good thing to do is just get there before it opens, or come and then put your name on a list and then grab a drink, someplace else. But it's absolutely fantastic. But what's so amazing about this street is that it used to have a bunch of just tiny little places that were kind of run down, or even empty storefronts. And so Gregory comes here in 2009 and he opens Frenchy. And of course it becomes extremely popular. Anthony Bourdain and Eric Ripert ate there on one of the episodes in Paris. And then slowly the street just started filling up, as he did with his places. But you see, like right here, there's a butchery here, there's a fish market here, there is the bakery here. Now at the start there was a ice cream shop, there's a place to get coffee, there's a produce. All of this is because of Gregory, and most of these places are all of his suppliers. So he basically, just like my beloved Yves Cantabor, he basically works with the greatest people that he can to get the best ingredients. And all of them started coming here and opening up their own places. So it's kind of the street that Gregory built. That was Frenchy to Go, which is the newest of all of them. 2018 that was open, and you could go in there and get this amazing Reuben sandwich. They also had I think it was fried chicken with caviar, which I really, really wanted to get, but it was something like 60 euros for lunch. And then right there where that fun little painting is on the door, that's the Frenchy wine cave, and it's mostly Rhone varietals. So you see the top where it says Crozes Hermitage. It's mostly Rhone varietals that he has there. They have a few other ones, but that's what it's heavy in. So basically you just could have everything you want on the street. Just basically eat your way down the street, shop your way down the street. And Gregory is absolutely amazing. And I know that Debbie and Ron are here. We happened to go in there in January of 2019 one night to the Bar à Vin, and we got there and we were like, what is going on? It is like, it was so fun. The music was loud, and we were like, that's Gregory. And we were like, starstruck. And we were like, what in the heck is going on in here? Well, it just so happened, he walked over and Ron said, hey, what's going on tonight? And he said, I just got this. And he pointed to his chef's coat and pointed to where he got his Michelin star. So he got his very first Michelin star that day. And there was this huge party. There was magnums of champagne being passed around over people's heads. And they brought us, we all got some champagne, and it was so much fun. And then we had some pictures taken with him, and lots of kisses. And it was just absolutely amazing. And it was just the sweetest thing. And even anytime I think about it, it makes me want to cry, because it was just so, he was just so genuinely happy and excited. And it was his first Michelin star. So he's very beloved ever since then. But I have been to all the other places. I've been to Frenchy's and Frenchy to Go, and they're all absolutely amazing. Frenchy's to Go, you could get, the Reuben sandwich with like these hand cut fries, and I can't remember what else it was, but it was like 15 euros. Oh, and a glass of wine. It was like 15 euros. And his food is absolutely amazing. But he's also opened another location, Frenchy's Pigalle. And then he also works a lot with the experimental cocktail company, doing some of the menus in some of their bars. So we're going to head down here we're going to take a little jaunt off of our path here to the left. We're going to go down Rue Etienne Marcel. Over to the left gate. Go down the street to the left. Your left. Are they letting us? We were having problems where I couldn't really hear Kate. Oh, hang on, everybody. Oh, can we go to the left down Etienne Marcel? The busy street. Back behind you. We couldn't, I couldn't hear Kate earlier. Other direction. There was a huge fight. There you go. Head that direction towards the tower. There was a huge fight here years ago when Starbucks wanted to be put into Rue Montorgueil, and as we could see, it is there. But we're gonna head down here down to. Uh-oh. I cursed it earlier because
Hey, Claudine, can you hear me now?
Yeah, there we go. I can hear you. We cursed it because I said that something about.
Now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can we go down Etienne Marcel?
Etienne Marcel's the next turning, I think.
Oh no, it should be right there, I think.
This is Rue Montorgueil.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, you're right. I'm sorry.
Do you want me to turn here or keep going down?
Yeah.
Sorry, I can hardly hear you.
There we go. Yeah, just keep going. Sorry.
Okay.
So this part of the street, everybody calls Rue Montorgueil, but it's actually not quite Rue Montorgueil yet. It's the Rue des Petits Carreaux. And down here is a little bit of everything. There are shops and cafes. And as you saw, there's Eric Kaiser. There is a delicious, one of my favorites, Braise Cafe, where right there where we could get fantastic jambon truffe crepe that is also in Odeon. And it's closed, obviously, you can see, to traffic. And then it is usually filled with lots of people, but it's actually not that busy. Kate was saying that up at Montmartre today, it was crazy because it's like, I think it's 50 degrees and it's great. So over here, just right across the street, up above this shop is a ceramic sign that, as you can see, has been, it's frequently vandalized. And there's, of course, always discussion about this, about what, if it should come down or not, but it is based back on a store that used to be here, and it was a coffee shop, and they sold like exotic spices and all sorts of stuff. And it says Au Planteur Cafe, and it was on it, you could see there is a black servant serving the white colonial gentleman. So obviously this is not a very correct, but it is still here. It was actually made a historic monument in 1984. It is talked about, some of them, people, talk about getting it taken down. There was the one that was over on, that was right off of Place de Contrescarpe. That one was eventually removed. It was even worse than this one. But there's actually an organization that is actually saying, no, keep these things, because it is part of the French history and everybody should learn from that, of this period of time. But it is classified as a historic monument, and it dates back to the store that was here in 1890. Hi, thanks guys for jumping in and helping people. I don't always see everything coming in on the chat right away, but yeah, if you're just joined us, you find Kate French's feed, and in the right hand corner, excuse me, double click on the little blue bubble to pin it onto your screen, or if you're on an iPhone or iPad, you can just double click the image and it locks it onto your screen, so you see her view. And we head down here a little bit. So You could get just about everything in all of these streets between Rue de Nil and Rue de Montorgueil. And I know that a lot of people love this street. This is, look how cute this little place is. It has really, well, it had, it looks like it's closed. But the one on the corner, excuse me. That's some really great signs, some really old signs. And that's one of the hardest words to say in all of the French language. I'm not even going to try it. I'm sure Cheryl could master this one. Yeah, June, there was the one on Rue Montorgueil. So that's the one that was really moved. That little place right there, the Cour du Cochon, is the, if you know your French, that is basically the pig's ass. The ass of the pig. So that's a good name for a store, but you know, I guess you know what you're going to get there. Hi, June. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. But it's actually surprising. I thought it was going to be much busier down here. And it's not too bad. But there's a Mariage Fair, which has amazing tea. And there's this area right here, of course, because we were inside the gate. And this was at the time, this was the route of the Courtyard, so the route of the fishmongers who come into the city, because we were on our way to Les Halles. And so this whole area, you know, has always had tons of shops. La Mère de Famille has amazing chocolate, and they're going to come up again here in a minute. But if you love marzipan, like my grandmother does, she loves, that's one place I always could get it. There's one in Rue Bonaparte too. So this little restaurant over here, Au Rocher du Cancal, is a very old historic restaurant, but it wasn't always there. This is one of those things where all the restaurants in Paris, if they like to hang their hat on being the oldest, it's usually there's a little, it's a pretty gray area as far as their history. But this is this really fantastic old restaurant, but it actually wasn't originally here. It was originally across the street. So it was across the street at number 59, which is kind of at the end of the block. It first opened here. It was opened by a gentleman named Alexis Bellin. He was a oyster seller at Les Halles and decided to come over and open a restaurant. It kind of became famous because Balzac used it a lot in his Comédie Humaine in writing, and he also used to hang out here a lot as well. But it was open here and at the time, and then it was sold in 1850 to Jean-Pierre de Montalvet, and he elevated the food so it became more than just like a little oyster counter. And under Louis Philippe, where there was all of this like money coming in and everybody had all this money to spend, they elevated it, and so it became pretty popular. In 1846, it was closed because Pierre was losing all his money, and then he moved it over to Rue de Richelieu and opened a smaller version of it there. But in 1820, a gentleman named Monsieur Pécan, he opened a restaurant in that exact spot at number 78, and that's where that was. And so he later took over the name, but basically right behind Kate on that corner, because as we know, the numbers, you know, sometimes the numbers of the street in Paris vary different, you know, they're not like 78s on the one side and so 77s on the other. So right across the street on that corner where Kate's showing, that's number 59, and that's where the original restaurant was. So the current restaurant, where it is now, while it is old, 1820, it was originally across the street. So the one that everybody kind of talks about was across the street, but Balzac and Alexandre Dumas, they all hung out here. A lot of the writers at the time hung out here, and then also, you know, included this in a lot of their writings. So it is a pretty cool spot. The food is pretty good. Sometimes you have to be careful on streets like this where the food might not always be the greatest because they are looking, you know, going towards the tourist market. So, you know, where they're thinking they could just get away with reheating things, but there are still some really great places, of course, like Anne's Cafe. And then we'll head down here a little bit. And then when we get down Also on this street is there was other not so wonderful things that happen here, unfortunately. But here, of course, we have the fantastic patisserie, which is known for having its fantastic bubble rum. And this dates back to 1730. So it's quite old. In 1725, Louis XV, whose Polish daughter, Marie Leczinska, was going to marry Louis XV. He was exiled from Poland and he was in France. And of course, when he was exiled, he took his pastry chef with him, Nicolas Storer. And so they moved to France. And while they were there, they were up in the Lorraine area, up in Alsace. And he one day took a Kugelhof, which is a kind of basically a very high bundt cake, and it was really, really dry. So Nicola had the idea of pouring some herbal liqueur on it to basically, make it a little moister, and ended up being like, hey, this is actually pretty delicious. And so it's basically was what turned into the baba au rum. So he ended up coming to Versailles with the king and Marie to marry Louis XV, and he worked at Versailles for 5 years. And then in 1730, he decided to come here and open up this very shop 292 years ago. Can you even imagine? And so it's been in the same little place. It used to have a yellow awning, and then they changed it to this blue. But inside it has these really great paintings by Paul Bondry, who also painted the frescoes on the Opera Garnier, which we love so much. But look at that, it's just beautiful. I went in here one day to go get one of these, fabled baba au rums, and they were out of but those I did get one another time, and they are so good. But they will give you, they have so much rum in them, they will actually give you like a little buzz when you eat them. And then here on the left is a restaurant that some friends of mine just absolutely love, Le Compas. And this area right here, this whole, basically that whole back side of the street over there, from number 64 to 74 at one point was called the Compas d'Or. And that is why this has Les Compas. And it was a huge station for stagecoaches. So stagecoaches and horses and everything. It was a big station and stables, and it also had an inn. It was here for 200 years, and then it was destroyed and finally just completely taken down in 1927. So that's why that building looks, so modern compared. And it was also the scene for a lot of crime, which then I looked into, and I found there's a couple podcast episodes I'm going to do on some true crime in Paris. And I found this very interesting character that I went down a rabbit hole on. So I'm going to share that in the podcast coming up. But it was quite interesting. But there was all sorts of hoodlums and stuff that was hanging out in here at the time. Also on this street, which I think we might have passed it, there is a plaque, because it's kind of difficult to find, but down into the surface of the street in the cobblestones, there is a plaque, and it is dated, it says on there that on January 4th, 1750, 2 gentlemen, Jean Diot and Bruno Lenoir, were spotted in a indecent position, and they were arrested, and they were basically tried and sentenced to death. And this was in 1750. Jean was a 40-year-old. He worked at a charcuterie, and Bruno was 21, and he was a shoemaker, and they lived nearby. And they were caught. They were 2 gay men, and they were caught together and arrested because it was this, horrible, indecent thing to see in public. I did see where it said that it was the last two people that were killed for being homosexual, but I don't think that's true, because that was 1750. And unfortunately, horrible things have happened since then. But they were tried and convicted. And on July 6, 1750, they were strangled and burned to death, which is horrific. Okay, now we're on the right street, Kate. I just say I'm on the right street here. but the plaque keeps getting vandalized, which is pretty horrible. People like spray paint it and cover it, and which is just pretty, I mean, it's a very horrible and sad reminder. But those reminders, I think, clearly we see things and trying to keep history alive so we don't repeat it. But sadly, we seem to keep repeating it, like right now in Eastern Europe, sadly. So hopefully we learn things from the past. And we're going to head down here. We're on Rue Etienne Marcel. Etienne Marcel was the Prevost of Merchants, which is basically, he was the first mayor of Paris. And this street was named after him. He ended up actually getting attacked and assassinated. So he wasn't exactly the best mayor of Paris. They basically turned on him and killed him. It wasn't probably the best, but that fantastic statue on the horse outside the Hotel de Ville that is usually has just amazing cherry blossoms every spring. That is a statue of Etienne Marcel. Oh, there's Kate. But we're going to head down here. I just wanted to pop down here because we are in the area to show you this really fantastic thing. It's one of those things that you might not think to pop into and go see, but it is actually really cool. I had wanted to go see this for a while and finally made it here, one of my first trips. And it is the tour of Jean Sans Peur, which is the tour of John the Fearless. And it dates back, it's one of the only remaining medieval structures in the city. And you could go inside of this and check it out. And this was originally part of the wall. And it was built by Jean Sans Peur, and he is very well known because we've talked about it before when we did a walk in the Marais near the Carnavalet before the Carnavalet opened, so last spring, I think. He had this built in 1409. He was the Duc de Bourgogne, and in 1407, he had his cousin Louis I d'Orléans killed. He was the brother of Charles VI, his brother. And so he killed him so that he wasn't, going to somehow take over the throne before him. On November 23rd, 1467, he basically got a bunch of men that ganged up on him on the street and killed him. His wife, we've also talked about his wife before, because his wife was Valentin, and she is a statue in the Jardin de Luxembourg of one of the 20 illustrious ladies. And she tried to avenge her husband's death, but she died herself a year later. But then Jean Sans Peur, he got what he had coming to him. He was assassinated in 1419. But the act of his killing his cousin set off a 28-year civil war between the Armagnacs and the Burgundians that it lasted 28 years, but he died. They were able to finally uncover all of this, and this was all that's remaining is this tower that was part of the medieval palace. But you could go in there, and it's really cool to walk up there. You go all the way up to the top. And on each floor, they have little rooms. So you actually get to see one of the first medieval toilets. And this wasn't just the Turkish toilet with a hole in the wall. It was very fancy because it had like the little commode. But it's really interesting to see. They do special exhibits here, but don't think you're going into the Louvre when you see the special exhibit. It's like usually just like printed things, kind of like what's hanging there on the side of the building. But it's really interesting. Like I've seen them where they talk about medieval, like fashion in medieval times and all sorts of different stuff. It's really, really interesting. The coolest thing about this is when you go to the top, the staircase, and it was inspired by the staircase of the library of Charles V in the Charles VI in the Louvre that's no longer there. But it spirals all the way up. And at the very top of it, the ceiling is basically has oak tree branches coming out of the staircase and oak leaves. It's really, really cool. I'll put a picture of it on my website. But it's really interesting. You get some really cool views. Nobody is really there. When I did this, there was like 2 other people walking, and right kind of at where that big window is there, kind of in the center, you could walk out there and look out over the city, and it's outside most of it's in the back. But it's really, really interesting, and you should definitely go check it out. It's open kind of strange hours. It's open from Wednesday to Sunday from like 1:30 in the afternoon to 6 o'clock. But it is really cool to go check out. I mean, you're not going to have many chances to see things like that, especially within the city. But what a rotten guy, having his cousin killed, but then he was assassinated in the end. But it is the restroom's kind of interesting. I mean, it is like a private, restroom. It's quite fancy for the times. And we're going to head back down here, and we're not going to see it today. We'll do it a different time, but the fancy La Poste du Louvre reopened over here. And I know that they are doing Fashion Week starts tomorrow. And I know one of the fashion shows is in there. They don't like to, and I only know that because my friend's going to it, because they don't ever like to tell you in advance, other than, Dior. It looks like Dior set up again in the Tuileries over that basin at the end. They're building some huge structure. That's usually where Dior is. And Louis Vuitton is a lot of times somewhere within the Louvre, inside or outside. So I'm always curious to see where it is. In the fall, the fall is, I think, the bigger fashion week but that's when they take over locations and close things off. It's quite inconveniencing. And it just kills me that how much money they spend to build these things, and it takes weeks and weeks, and then it's over in it's a 15-minute fashion show. But we're gonna head now. We'll head back down to this side, and this has a fantastic place. I'm not sure if you guys have been here before, but and it looks like they've added a little to it. I love this facade. I did go here my very first trip in Paris to have escargot, but I do need to go back. I haven't been back since. But it is the escargot Montorgueil, and it has that great facade with the golden escargot there on the top. It was opened in either 1832 or 1836, depending on what you find. And the ground floor and the first floor of it is labeled as a historic monument back in 1998. When it was opened, here it was, Leal was here, and it was just kind of just like Rocher. It was just kind of, a small, kind of like little oyster and escargot bar. A lot of the fishmongers work around here. So, and this was the road, as I had mentioned earlier, the Poissonnerie. And so this actually, this place was just a small little place that was here, and under Louis the 13th, when the wall changed, and then that was why they were able to add this place, this area got bigger, had more shops, and restaurants were opened. But in 1900, Theodore Lecomte bought it and changed it. So he went a little more upscale here. He had upscale cuisine. In 1919, Andre Terrell, who also had in 1914 bought La Tour d'Argent, bought this location, and his chef that was Francois Lespina, who was the chef to the King of Egypt, came over here, and they redid it and redid the menu and fancied the place up. In 1923, he ended up at a Drouot at the auction house. He bought the ceiling that was from Sarah Bernhardt's apartment that was designed by Georges Victorin. He that was, this Belle Epoque beauty. He ended up purchasing that and installing it here. So if you go in here, make sure, you definitely go inside. These are those places that when you go in there, even if you don't need to go to the restroom, because sometimes they're either upstairs or downstairs. And sometimes on your way, you could find all sorts of other fantastic things. And then, you're slowly loitering behind, taking photos of stuff, and, you're on your way to the bathroom. So it's all, nobody will look at you sideways wondering what you're doing, but excuse me, it's really beautiful inside. You have that great little corner. This side of the street, a lot of the buildings are older than where we started. You have that great little corner there. And a lot of these little buildings on here, some of them are date back to the mid 17th century that are on the right hand side. I remember the first time I came here because the person I was with just basically tried to prove that, you know, I was going to get mugged or pickpocketed at every second I turned. And I remember walking down the street, she had me just like terrified something was going to happen. And now I just look back at that and just, it's just roll with it. Be aware of your stuff, be smart, but you don't need to walk and like you're going to get killed as you walk down the street. That was my fear of the time. But yeah, look, you have Lauderay, you have everything. Like a lot of these places, you know, some of these, you know, they make them look very cute, but there's just you know, there's also just a ton of stores and shops here, but they're all fantastic. So you could come here and get everything you would ever need. And then I think it's coming up here, Kate. I think it's number 17. Might be the next after this building. Or did we already go past it? Did we go past 17? Might be behind you. It's on the right-hand side. Did we go right past it? Sorry. There's a fantastic little door that I wanted to show everybody. And there over the door, I think is it right past Lauderay? No. Next one. So it doesn't really stand out. It's not as fancy as some of the other doors you would see around here. But, and the door's never open. But this is the Passage de Laurent de or Hungary. I will try to say it in French. It's always those H's. But the reason that this isn't actually named after the Queen of Hungary, this is actually named after a woman named Julie Becher. She was a lady that lived here on this street. She worked at the market. She was nicknamed the Rose de May. She had this incredible resemblance to the Archduchess Marie Therese of Austria, who was also the Queen of Hungary, who was also, you might know her a little bit better as the mother of Marie Antoinette. And she had this crazy resemblance to Marie Antoinette's mother. In fact, she was at Versailles once and Marie Antoinette saw her and was blown away at how much she looked like her mother. So she was, you know, later on, and they ended up renaming this passage after her, but naming it after the Queen of Hungary because that's what they said she looked like. But I don't think looking like the Queen of Hungary worked in her favor because she was killed during the revolution via the guillotine. So it didn't really work out too well for her in the end. But she used to live here. And there is also a saying that some of the stores that were there have come into like incredible fortune, and these stores that were there in like the 18th and 19th century would make, you know, they'd have these tiny stores and somehow some stroke of luck, they'd have these like make a ton of money. They'd sell a lot of their products. And so they say it's good luck from the Queen or Julie. But these buildings here on the right, a lot of these are quite old, and it goes right into Leal. And you have your gelato. So you could just eat your way down these streets. Maybe have some escargot afterwards, have a macaron, and then go get some gelato. As of tomorrow, people don't have to wear masks inside if it's with the vaccine pass in France. And then the rest of it's probably going to change pretty soon as well. And then we end up over here, and just to the right of us is the beautiful Saint-Eustache. And I figured we will walk a little bit just so you could take in the beautiful sunset. We're, I think, about 45 minutes away from sunset though. But isn't it amazing how just a few weeks ago, we were doing this and we end up it'd be dark. But here's the great Saint Eustache. I wanted to go do this too so we could see the front, because it's under the front of it has basically been, since they built this church, under construction, because they built the church and the front facade, which we'll see, basically started to slip into the ground. And I think it was happening again because they are trying to get it. We'll go past the church and towards the Bourse de Commerce. But this is such a huge church. I'm wondering if this year for Easter, if they are going to do the city's Easter. I went there in 2019, just the week after the fire of Notre Dame. And the Archbishop was there, and that's when I was just overcome by everything. And he looked over and grabbed my hand and said it'd be okay. But now he's not the Archbishop anymore, because they found he had a friendship with a woman of the church, and people were trying to say it was inappropriate, even though they said it was not. And they found some emails, even though they weren't anything inappropriate in it, they made him resign. And I feel like he was my friend. So I was sad when I saw, because he looked like a very nice man too. You have that great sandstone sculpture right here in Leao. There used to be a lot more sculptures around here, but a lot of them have been moved. It's by Henry de Muller, and it is actually not that old. Well, it was 1986, so kind of old. But this side, they were doing restoring work on this side of Saint Eustache, and that's lovely and finished. I just love at the top of some of the windows where you see the hearts. But as we get down here into the front, we'll see lots more work. I don't know if I've ever seen the front of this without work being done in all the years, but I also love, to the left, you see the Bourse de Commerce, which used to be for a period of time, the stock exchange, and now it is the Pinot collection. So it is a contemporary art museum. It is very interesting. If I'm not the hugest contemporary art fan, but I did go there because the building itself is pretty amazing, and the ceiling of the dome is all completely painted, and it is really fantastic. But outside of it, we'll see is the Colonne de Catherine de Medici. Back there was the Opédi Cochon, which I still am traumatized because I went there and accidentally ordered the Opédi Cochon, which is pig's foot. And I'm still not over it. And I think that was 5 years ago. I'm still traumatized, and I'll try everything once, but that was too much. It was just too much. Oh yeah, Sharon, the bas-relief is really great. There's also the Keith Haring in there that's really great. That was his last piece that he did. Can we go around the back? So we'll go towards the column, Kate. Like circle around it. But the museum is really fantastic, and it's like there's all bunch of different, like he'll have some of his collection there, but then they also have different exhibits from other artists. And we wanted to go because I want to show you the silver horse that's in front of it. But you can see, I think the last time we did this, we came here over a year ago with Crystal, and this was still all covered up. So I was so excited because I have never seen this column not covered up until I think this last spring. So this was, at one point, this was a whole palace that Catherine de Medici had, and it was torn down later, but they kept this column here. And she was quite the fan of astrology. Nostradamus was one of her advisors. And so she was really into all of that. So she had this column built. She could walk all the way up there, and at the very top of it, it has like a cage on top. It almost looks kind of like a bird cage. And it was to do, to look at the stars and everything. But they kept it here. And when they built the Bourse de Commerce, they built it alongside the column here. And on the front, it has a plaque and stuff. And you can see these little tiny cutouts along the way. But I was so happy that they left this. But she had come over here because she had this palace built. And she was told that by her Italian advisor after Nostradamus left her and said, you will die next to Saint-Germain. And so at the time she was having the Palais des Tuileries built there over by the Louvre. And of course, you know that on the far side of the Louvre is the Saint-Germain-l'Auxerrois. So she was told this at the time, and she was like, well, I'm out of here. Like, I'm next to Saint-Germain. And so she left and moved over here into the palace that she had here, of course, smaller palace. And she ended up a few months later getting very sick, and she was literally on her deathbed, and the doctor was there, and she asked his name, and his middle name was Saint-Germain. And then she died like the next day. So in the end, he was right. She did die next to Saint-Germain. I love that story. But she, all of her mystical ways and being known for poisoning people and witchcraft and all sorts of things like that didn't do so well for her in the end. But you can, definitely you want to get, this is a popular spot to come because, especially with French people, because it is new. But it is definitely something you want to go see. It's not, it's a very sparse museum, especially in the center of it. It's just basically the huge open dome with a few pieces underneath the dome. And then around the sides of it is where they have the little, the just different galleries. So it's not something that's going to take you a really, really long time to go do and see. But it is pretty, the building itself is pretty amazing. Yes, June, have the French onion soup, have the soupe à l'oignon au pied de cochon. Just don't stay away from the pig's foot. I remember the lady was like, are you sure? And I was like, oui. And then I was like, it took me a minute to register after she left. And I was like, uh-oh. But then I was too embarrassed to stop her. And then I just ordered a lot of red wine. So we have this great, I wanted to come over here because I just think there's some contemporary art that I do like, but this is actually really cool. It's by American artist Charles Ray, who has a special exhibit that's inside as well right now. And this was created in 2014. It's the Horse and Rider is what it's called. What is it? Is it metal, Kate, or is it? Go knock on him.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's stainless steel.
Stainless steel.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, go knock on him.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's not, like a taxidermied horse like Napoleon's that Les Invalides, but it's pretty cool. And inside they have he did a bunch of different sculptures. A lot of them are takes on old, 20th, 19th, 20th century sculptures. It's really interesting. You can see it online, and I'll put a link to the museum as well on my website. But as you can see, there's a line to get in. No, I was gonna say it's the first weekend, but next weekend's the first weekend. Not every museum in the city takes part in that. The Louvre does not, because the first Sunday of the month, a lot of the museums you could go to for free. It's a good idea to still go online and get tickets to that. Usually there is a free option. If you have a museum pass, you hit the free option, but they will ask you most of the time when you get there, like your, verification and your proof of why you're getting that for free. It looks like the horse is sending some light, or no, because that's light's not hitting the horse, but something's bouncing off the light. Bouncing off something. But it is, as you can see, the space is, but you basically around, you kind of circle all the way around and go up to see the smaller exhibit rooms. And when I was there was like photo exhibits and there, I don't know if it's still there, but there was and I did not see it when I was there, thankfully, because even though I know it's fake, it would freak me out. There was the little hole in the wall where the mouse comes out and the mouse's head moves and stuff. Did you go inside there, Kate?
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah, he's great. He has like a really nervous, he's like, oh, sorry, I'm not sure what I'm doing. Like he has like a little voice.
Oh, does he really?
Yeah, if you go up really close to him, he's like muttering nervously.
Oh, funny. I think it would still freak me out. Yeah, but it is really cool inside. I mean, they think like just even looking at the architecture of it is really fantastic. It was at one point it was the granary, and then it was the stock exchange for products like grains and things like that. So then of course the stock exchange moved from here, but it is really cool. Of course, it was supposed to open in, I think, 2020, and then it, obviously was pushed off because of COVID. But it is Pinot's collection, which is he's one of the richest men in Europe, along with all those other guys, but he was also one of the guys that donated a ton of money for Notre Dame, which we love. But this area, there's some really cool, we're just down this, if we keep going, if you go down this street here, you end up going past the end of the Louvre, and you'll head right down towards the Seine. So it's a great little area around here, quite busy, as you could tell. But you could kind of slide through all of these streets and get down to the Louvre. But right now, if you are coming to Paris soon, it has, in the last 2 weeks, I think everybody's going back to Paris now. In the last 2 weeks, it has gotten incredibly busy. I do trip planning for people. So if you are going, even if you've been before, and you want, some more details and to, really maximize your time, I probably picked up 3 to 4 clients every day this week to do trip planning for. It is like everybody is going back. It's crazy. And I did see something on the French newspaper in Le Monde that it was saying that they think that now, originally a couple of weeks ago, they were saying they don't think tourism will be back to pre-pandemic levels till 2024 maybe. Now they're saying it's coming back very fast, and it could be busier than before COVID, because everybody's been waiting, they want to get back. So if you are going, and it has been up until now, it's still pretty easy to get tickets for the Louvre and Versailles, but I have clients that are going in the next few weeks, and there was dates at Versailles and the Louvre that were sold out. So if you are going in the next few months, and if it's something like the Louvre or Versailles or one of those things that you really, really, really don't want to miss, don't wait. Go and get those. Go online, get those tickets, and definitely check that out. If you are waiting on getting plane tickets, I would not wait very long. The prices might have already skyrocketed because of everything that's happening in Eastern Europe and the price of fuel going up. It could make the plane tickets, most likely will go up even higher. So don't wait, get those things now. And if you're going to be in Paris in April or May, and then the fall going forward, and you want to do a tour with me, I do quite a few different tours, and can even create a tour for you if you want to. All my tours are private, so I don't just do ones, every Tuesday or whatever it is. All of mine are private, so it'd be just me and you and whoever you're with. Reach out to me, because the dates, especially in May, are basically, I don't think I have a day I'm not doing a tour in May right now. So it's getting really busy, but definitely reach out to me, and I would love to see you and give you a tour. So I'll see how we can make it work, but I would love to see you. And I can't wait to take Angela to the Louvre. I can't wait to be back in the Louvre, but it's getting busy. So I just want to make sure you guys don't, if there's things you really want to see, get those tickets. And when you get tickets, go directly to the source, go right to the Louvre website, go right to Versailles website. Don't fall for the things that say skip the line, because there's really no such thing as that, because all of the skipping the line, you can't skip the line because the line is security. It just means you could be in a shorter line, but something like the Louvre where you only could go if you have a pre-purchase tickets. They don't sell tickets yet on site the day of. You will still be in a very long line, sometimes stretching all the way through the courtyard. But it's you want to make sure to get those and go right to the website, because a lot of times these people, other clearing places will say, skip the line for the Louvre, and they'll charge you $10 more, 10 euros more, and you just got had. So save that 10 euros for a glass or two of wine. So it'll be great. Judy, I will be there all of April and all of May. So if you guys, so let me know. You could get me at ClaudineHemingway.com at my email. And that is also, we love to see you and bring these tours to you. And if you want to leave us a little tip or anything, you could do that at Venmo or PayPal or even Zelle. And it's the same at all of them, Claudine at ClaudineHemingway.com. And Kate and I would appreciate that. And we could keep bringing all of these to you. And I already have the next few weeks planned out, and the blossoms are sadly already starting to pop out. I only say sadly is because I wanted them to wait for me. And 4 weeks from today, I will be on that plane. So we will have tours the next 3 weeks. And then 4 weeks from today, I will be on a plane and then coming to you from Paris. But we're going to go in a couple weeks. We're going to go check out all the blossoms. We'll give them a few more weeks. But next week, I think we're going to be up in the Upper Marais. So we'll have more fun, great things to share with you guys. So we hope to see you next week to join us there. And I put all of this information on my website on ClaudineHemingway.com. There is a tab that says Live Walks in Paris, and it's usually sometimes 5 or 8 pages of information. So you could print those up and take them with you, and then walk back to these places on your own and go and find all these things, or even listen to this. And also coming out tomorrow on the podcast, Paris History of Eka Hemingway on La Vie Creative. The episode is about the my favorite, the Romantic era. And so it's this side of it is going to be all about the artist. And of course, I love it because it's my beloved Delacroix, but it's also about Géricault and all of these other things that make the Romantic period. And I wanted to do it because you might realize, hey, that is also my favorite era, because I love all of those artists or all those paintings. And then in a few weeks, we're going to do one about the writers, because that's also Victor Hugo and all of those guys, and quite a few amazing sculptors. So I'm really excited to share that one with you guys tomorrow, and that will be live. But thank you all so much for joining Kate and I today. Kate will pop on and say hi, but look at how beautiful that is. She'll fight her way back up to Montmartre. There she is, looking lovely, and her mom is happy to see her. But thank you guys all so much for joining us. And if you want, you can leave us a tip. I put it in the chat at Venmo or PayPal, Claudine at ClaudineHemingway.com. And we will see you guys here next Sunday. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you, Claudine. See you next week.
Everybody have a great week.